Oh, what? Oh, 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 uh, oh, uh, oh, okay. Uh, alright. I don't know why it's not, okay. Oh, it's starting off fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Love it. It's starting off pretty scuffed, Bagel. Alright, so we're gonna do some testing before I start. I added a more robust, CC on my sheet. And I'm pretty sure I can see that sheet working right now. So, before we start, we're gonna freaking pop up my stream. We're gonna test some shit out to see if this motherfucker is working or not. It looks hella blurry on my end, but I don't know if it looks good on it. Oh, it actually looks pretty good. Okay, so, I mean, it doesn't look the best. I think it's better than last time. I think I just need to talk slower. I think the problem is I talk too fast. I think I assumed you talk. What? Okay. So, I think it's better than what I was using before. Picklesburg? What the fuck? Yeah, dude, this thing is all types of fucked up. Let me see if I can change. No, it's on the right. It's on the right microphone. Well, freaking Picklesburg. All right, so here's the question. So I want this sheet to be like a ongoing thing, just in case I happen to get more people that can't hear me in my streams. Do you think that this size is good, or should I have it a little bit lower? Because let's say someone has my stream on like full screen, right? Is that like too much going on? Like, is it like distracting? Like it might be. But I want to get it set up. The problem with these things never work 100%. Well, yeah, I know it's not gonna work 100%, but I still want to put my 2 cents in and at least attempt to make it work. I gotta get rid of the other one real quick though. I totally forgot I have that sheet enabled. Where the fuck is my sheet at? I can't even figure out how to get to it. Oh, it's right here. So you're saying you're gonna make the text bigger? Okay. So like, put me in full screen and see what if I if it looks better. Let me get rid of my other one. Let's get that shit out of here. Oh no, that's the design panel. I almost did the wrong one. Oops. Get that shit out of here. Wait, I have stuff that's not even active? Wait, what is this? Well, okay, you know what? No, we're not doing this right now. Fuck that sheet. And more thick? You can read it fine. I think the text is just distracting. So like, do you think I should put it a little smaller then? It is kind of distracting. I can see because it's constantly like flickering because I'm talking all the time and holy shit, this thing fucking flickers a lot. Jesus Christ. But I made it like I made the background green so it doesn't obviously have like a border, so that would be even more distracting. So maybe I should try uh make it thicker and then make it a tiny bit smaller and see if that works at all. And make it tiny bit smaller. What? Okay. It's not 100%, but it freaking works. You get an idea of what the frick I'm saying, right? It's not gonna be 100%. You get the freaking idea. Stuff at rice is nothing you're saying. I think it's because I talk too quick. If I actually like slow down my talking and talk like this the whole stream, it'll probably pick up a lot better. It work. Yeah, like push the front. Yeah, it's because I freaking talk too quick. But I mean, I'm not gonna freaking change how I talk for that freaking stupid ass sheet. Well, not stupid. You know what I mean? It'll pick up a good portion. So I helped a homie out yesterday. Chase, the homie in my that works with me, that joins the chat a lot. Remember how he was saying that he quit the game because he couldn't kill the fire giant? So I was chilling at his house yesterday, and he finally killed that beach. Bro, playing mage? What the fuck, my guy? I can't do that shit. There's way too many buttons you gotta press. You gotta cycle between your spells. You gotta drink freaking mana potions, health potions, freaking mix, freaking horse, dude. That's too much work, my guy. That's a lot of freaking work. That's not for me. Fuck that shit. Fuck that shit. Alright, what the frick are we doing here? Should I only focus on the main boss today? But then again, I was playing on a controller. I was playing on his PS5, so like I can't really say shit because I don't fucking use controller, and I don't know how people play with controller because you have to like move your hand, like curve your sheet. It's fucked. Yeah, playing on the freaking controller and then like coming back to keyboard is kind of nice. I am not a freaking controller player. I'll tell you that much straight up. Wait, have I fought this guy with the dual things before? I don't feel like I haven't. Ah, what do you mean that was bad timing? Alright, starting off great. Love this game. Alright, I love this guy. Alright. Where's the in-game audio? No freaking shot we're having audio. You freaking kidding me right now? Oh my Jesus Christ, dude. I swear to God, I don't touch any of my sheet, bro. I don't know why it keeps changing. Actually, you know what? I lied. I had an update for my headset, so maybe that was it. Yeah, that one is that was my bad because I had an update. But all the other times, dude, I didn't do shit. I'm telling you, bro, it's because I'm using two PCs. If I was using one, we wouldn't have this issue. It'd be like a 1-2 fix, but because I have two PCs and I have my audio. Audio is a freaking beast with two, bro. It freaking sucks. How many souls? Yeah, I kind of forgot. What was my technique? I haven't fought you. I think my technique was just do that over and over again, right? How much I love this guy. How did that? Wait, wasn't that a different attack? What? What? Oh, huh. I forgot about this guy. This guy. Oh, I so love this guy. Bro. How do you I love this guy. I love this guy. Is the audio back by the way? I love this guy. To be fair, I haven't fought this guy with duel yet. But I really do like this whole... I like that a lot. I feel like it's a lot quicker than a freaking two-hand. You have? What, I have? Well, okay, you know, let me rephrase that. I haven't fought him for long. How about that? Oh, wait, yeah, I have. Wait, when did I get this freaking katana? It was the start of... No, it was the end of my last stream, right? mean I wasn't good time? Hello? I pressed the button? Alright. I didn't dodge that? Oh, that's the thing. That's, oh. Whoa! Whoa! Hello, I pressed frickin' the button? Hello? Oh, I love this guy. That didn't hit him? Oh, she already? Oh, God. Okay, okay, what was my technique? Don't be a beach. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, remember, he jumps start. Do I have time for a double here? That wasn't my fault. I was mid-animation of drinking a potion. That wasn't my fault. That wasn't my fault. That's my fault. I feel like that was pretty good though. What, 2 fights in, I already got to a second phase after not fighting him for a couple days. I think that's pretty good. Hey, how's it going, Bagel? How was your weekend? Why did I go for that? Nah, I was dumb. Oh. Going for two? I never got it. I never got it. Oh, like that shit, little smack, poke, flop. Oh, like that little freaking double? Oh. Dude, I can never get that off, dude. See, look at that. She freaking what? Third try, I've already gotten twice. Alright, here we go. Hey, okay, actually, hear me out, Bagel. You know what I need? I need a, Oh. That works too. Okay. No, I'm doing good. Every time I go for a heal, he freaking smacks me. What the fuck am I supposed to do damage, dude? How are you supposed to dodge that? Nah, homie, every time I go for a heal, he freaking smacks me in the mouth. Freaking love this boss. Oh, what's up, Slasher? What's up, Slasher? How's it going? That timing for that celebration was pretty good, not gonna lie. What's up, Sasha? How's your freaking week going, my guy? We are out here freaking struggling. Absolutely struggling with that capital S, dude. capital motherfucking ass. How did I do it that time? How come sometimes I don't do it? That was good. As long as I'm freaking quick, dude. If I can know what he's going for. What? Oh, son of a bitch. I had enough of that. Okay, nah, that was good effort. Nailed anger out, my guy. Dumb mistake. Oh. Did I get the head off him? Oh, frick, I had an easy opportunity for some. Don't be cocky, Nick. Don't be cocky. Yeah. Just wait from. You got this. You got this. You shouldn't have gone ahead for there. Well, why did you do that, Nick? That's fucking dumb. You did it again? After just learning that you weren't supposed to do that? What the frick is wrong with you? Oh, shit, already? Okay, here we go. Slasher, this is for you, Beach. I mean, not Beach. Not your Beach, but... Okay, let's go. Christ, that range. Bro, every time I go for heal. How many are you gonna shoot, my guy? 5? Okay, no, that was better. That was better. Okay, so that was better. Okay, I'm learning. Sorry, I got a call from my mom. I'm doing good, man. I just been enjoying a little unexpected vacation. Oh hell yeah. Some sexy weather. Wait, bro. I forgot you live freaking California, dude. Oh my god, it's freaking fantastic over here, dude. It's only gonna be really nice for the next couple of days over here. I mean, you're like what, a couple hours away, right? And then after Wednesday, it's gonna hit up to like 87, I think, again. Which freaking sucks, but it's freaking ass, man. Nice. Little rain today, dude. Rain, hell yeah, dude. That was late. Don't know the timing for that stupid ass dumb sheet attack. The frick did I dodge all that? Sometimes you go for that. No, you confuse me today. What? Sometimes you go for the sheet, and then sometimes you for the low. Why does it have to be a 360? Why can't there just be a 180? Huh? That hit me? This boss is fun. I have to this boss. Dude, what? Bro, how do you time that? I'm comprehend. What do you mean I didn't hit him? Let's go. I love fighting this guy. love fighting this guy. This is for you, Slasher. I pressed the wrong button. Why did I use that? Why did I use that? No, I'm done. Why did I use that? You can use that one every time. Oh, it doesn't go to the. Oh. I'm going for it. That's the move. Okay. So, okay, note to self. That doesn't go. I thought that that doesn't go through the prayer. Prayer. It doesn't go through the pillar. I got it. Jesus fucking Christ. I take it over 110 doge for all though. Alright, bro, gonna go wash some dishes. I'll keep you tabbed. Alright, man. Thanks for the tab, my guy. Hope you have fun cleaning, my dude. Fuck. So piece of fuck this guy. Alright. Okay, so I feel like I need to use that to my advantage. When I know he's freaking jumping, instead of being a badass and like dodging his attacks to you, just freaking chill next to the pillar. But I need to still see him because he can freaking teleport to my ass in 2 seconds. Not even that, like 1 second. Right, that potion idea was just freaking absolute garbage. It's a trash potion. You're gonna go in the middle and you go to the right. Oh, whoa. Okay, whatever. You know what? No, that's good. One direction, freaking my shit. Go another direction, my shit. So I was afraid of him there. Oh my gosh, fucking that was dumb, but also kind of worth it. Okay. I'm wondering if I should use my mix now. I wish I had a thing to be able to have more damage. Because right now my sheet is just freaking health and stamina, which is cool. But I think I need some sheet for damage. Because I'm going to use my sheet right away. Forget. Fall from that, please. Oh, what? Okay. I'm so focused right now. God damn, that's punishing. I'm not going for a heal here. I'm gonna wait. That was kind of worth it. Jesus frickin' shit. Alright. No, I'm dead. It's the. Oh, I don't remember that combo. Jesus Christ, my guy. Jesus shit. I'm going for it. Okay, back up. Good job. Oh my god, I'm so focused right now. Don't get cocky. Do not get cocky. Do not get cocky. I swear to God, if you freaking get cocky and scuff this fight. Don't go for it. Don't go for it. Go for it now. Go for it now. Don't tell me it's third. Please die. 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 Please. Please don't be a third. It's a third. It's a third. Oh, it's not a third. Oh, wait. No. 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 Wait. No. Wait. Holy shit. No, I saw the item. I saw my item, so I know I killed his ass. Fuck that dumb beach. Oh, welcome to map 2. Oh, shit, is one map on this? Wow. I know I killed this beach, so there better be a fucking checkpoint. I ain't fighting no other beach.
The rune of death is unbound. And the lands between are shrouded by
Is this map
death's
legit just
dark
gone?
fate. But the flames
It just said you killed an African baby. Damn, bro. She's
impenetrable
hot. You don't notice that she. I was too busy freaking. Holy god damn, that looks freaking cool, bro. I mean, rest in peace, the tree, but
it is then.
damn, that looks good. And like a.
You'll be Elden Lord yet.
Holy shit. Is there actually 2 maps in this? Well, I feel like there should be after that. Fix the green screen? Oh, it's because I did a lot of banging, sorry. Where's that? Oh, there's not 2 maps? Oh, it's not? Oh. Oh. Oh, okay. Oh, we're down V2? Wait, have we even entered the... Oh, no, yeah, we did. I forgot. Okay, wait, so where the frick am I at now? Oh. Oh. Okay. Well, I know this place. So, this must have changed since last time I was here. Oh, fuck the Dragon Slayer. Oh my god, that looks freaking cool. Again, rest in peace the tree, but damn, that looks good. Okay, sorry. She's all destroyed. Walk up to the throne when you enter the tree. Oh, shit. Oh yeah, we still gotta freaking burn the thorns, huh? And this shit got spooked up. Hold the retreat system. Oh, fuck, I skipped that shoebox. Then where you're open. Shit, can I go back? Tell an unwavering minus scorching flame. Dude, that looks fucking sick. I can't get over that sheet. Oh. What? Damn, homie. She's food. I really just took up some sheet. Oops. I can't believe I killed that beast, dude. I'm freaking cracked. I'm like genuinely surprised I killed that beach. This is not the way to go. This is not the way to go. Apparently I don't know how to get up here. Kinda forgot, it's been a while. Oh yeah, I had to go up the freaking tree thing. Oh, wait. No, it's the fuck, I kinda forgot how to get up there. Nothing more. Upstairs on the right? Wait, hold on. Which way are you looking here? I'm gonna face this way, and let me see. Let me get the delay out of the way. Right. Okay, you tell me over here. Okay, that was my next objective. Is there a big ass staircase that I totally just did not even pay attention to? Yes, there is. Alright. Oh my god, dude. This game oh. 144 hertz? That's freaking sick. Oh my god, I can't believe I did that. Oh, I have a lot of souls. I should probably use that. We soon will make our way to Melina. Oh, shit. Wait, I kind of forgot our agreement. Did we say that we're doing Melina after, as the very last freaking boss, right? You wanted to do that before the final boss? Oh no, didn't we say that we're doing it after that? Wait. Wait, did I say that? Well, you make it seem like it's the freaking hardest boss in the game, so I was thinking that we can do it at the end. But I don't freaking know. Before we progress, can I get a grace? Because I just kind of forgot how many souls I have. I should kind of maybe, you know, bank this. Is there a grace nearby that doesn't involve boss fight? There's a grace in this room. Do I have to fight a boss? Is it somewhere? I'm getting vibes right here. It is not right there. Okay. Fuck it. If it's a boss fight, I'm freaking losing my sheet. Fuck it.
I knew you'd come to stand before the Elden Ring, to become Elden Lord. What a sad state of affairs. I commend your spirit, but alas, none shall take the throne. Queen
Oh
Mary
shit,
will
is
now
this the...
that we continue to struggle unto eternity.
Oh, of course. Magic. I love that. I should probably not be sitting here just waiting for him to cast me. Oh. 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 Oh, okay. Oh, wow, that's a lot of spells. Oh, okay. I almost just got one shot. That is a bad move. Nah, I know that freaking move. Don't get staggered. Ow! Okay, ow! That freaking hurts? No way you go through this, right? You're freaking, I'm using this shit on this major. Oh, that comes back? I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm dead. Don't, no, I don't want to lose my souls, please. Yeah, let's just sit and attack him. It's absolute. Oh, wow, I should have died. Beautiful idea, sir. Dude, you have a lot of frickin' shit, my guy. You couldn't hit him before he did that? Okay. I'm getting frickin' stuck. Did he just heal? Ow! Okay, so I kind of forgot with mages, you don't want to let them do anything, so I should probably be more aggressive. Also, I'd like to keep my souls if you don't mind. I'd rather not lose that. I kind of forgot mages, you don't want to like go far away. Oops. Who tells you where each strawberry was? Oh yeah. This guy's a pushover. If he dies, guy, I'm leaving, by the way. Oh, I didn't see that. It doesn't count. I'm dying some mages. Look, I forgot, alright? I've been so used to fighting that dumb fast beach. Okay, run into me. Oh. Did you tell me that isn't fucking reach him? me like heal for a second and get my bearings? Ow! I'm dead. Okay. I love this boss. I died 2 times. Hey, what's up, man? How's it going, dude? I have no idea how to pronounce your name, and I don't want to butcher it. But welcome to the stream, man. I'm terrible with names. I'm sorry. Haiku, is that just okay? Oh, that sounds pretty easy, actually. Dude, why does that do so much damage, my guy? Like, holy shit. God, Jesus Christ. Oh, thanks so buddy. Appreciate it. I'll call it. Oh, have I told you how much I hate mages? You don't even pronounce subs right? Dude, I can't pronounce it in pride, man. What's up, Haiku? How's it going, man? Welcome to stream, dude. Where we die and a lot. Haiku's another in pro. $20 to sell these muscles right here. Blood. Can you just like give me a second to like maybe think a little bit? Not die to all your attacks. Can you give me a second to breathe, my guy, and like think of my bearings? Okay, you know what? Nah, you know what? I blame. You know what I blame? I blame the katanas. That's what I blame. That's new. Okay, you know what? Nah, we're switching back to the one hand. The 2-hand was good for that boss. Maybe only bosses, but I mean, this guy's a boss, but he's not big. Sorry, Katana, you're freaking out of here, my guy. Blaming the weapon? Hell yeah, I'm freaking blaming the weapon. What else can I blame? I can't blame anything else. Oh, now you don't want to go for 2? Okay. Dude, why does that do so much I mean, I have no negation towards that shooting so much. Why? Dude, I forgot how to play the game. My God, what is happening? Dude? How many times have I died at this guy so far? Well, I forgot how to play the game. Okay. I never seen anyone die to this guy. You're the first. Oh, hell yeah. I mean, again, to be fair, I have no, you know, protection against mage stuff. Nice double attack from each. I'm already dead? Dude, I was at full health like 2 seconds ago, wasn't I? Okay. No, this guy's dumb. I hate this guy. I hate this guy. Hey, how's it going, Haiku? How's your day going, man? How's your week going? How's your life going? There's no chance I die to this guy again, okay? How am I already almost dead? Where did my health go? Dude. I know I got hit by that comment, but where the frick did my other health go, dude? What the? Jesus, shit. I'm doing well. How are you? I'm doing all right. We're hanging in there. Dude, this guy's whooping my freaking ass right now, and I don't know why. I don't know why. Okay, can you like stop one-shotting me and like give me a chance to freaking fight you? This guy's a god. This guy's a god. Alright, this is when we use this stuff. Let's see here. Boost magic damage negation, put that sheet on. Stamina, we don't need that sheet. Greatly boost fire, give me that sheet. That's not gonna do anything. Okay, well never mind. Physical, no. Lightning damage is your lightning, no. Okay, never mind. Oh, we can use this one, dude. I can use that shit, right? Oh shit, I kind of forgot what I had now. Okay. Okay. Oh, let's see, where's my sheet? Okay, why do you have to use that one? That attack is so freaking annoying, my guy. A nice attack, you freaking nerd. This is something like that. God damn it. Bro. How do you dodge those so quickly when he shoots them at freaking Mach 5 speed? There's no way I need a freaking summon for this guy. What the fuck? I mean, how many bosses? How many mages did I fight? I've only fought a couple, right? That's freaking, oh my goddamn shit, bro. Oh, I didn't even see that attack. Alright. Ah. Dodging simulator. Why did I heal right there? Where did my health go? I'm freaking dead. Why did I go for an attack right there? Why did I... There's no chance we need a freaking summon for this guy, but I just... there's no shot. I mean, I summon, I'll one-shot him, which makes it easy as sheet, but there's no freaking chance we freaking need one. I can't, I refuse to use one for this freaking punk. I'm gonna end up losing my souls because of it, but frick it. Goes the map. Oh, that's the one that does that? Bro. What? Potion, let me guess. I'm like, oh, okay, this is the fire one. Don't forget about that. Oh, should I heal? Yep. Take a slap. Get away from that. It's fire. Dude, can you like maybe not use that attack? This is the freaking dumbest attack I've ever seen. Why am I running from this guy? Look, now I'm getting. Here comes the combo. Combo 1, 2, 3, 4. Yup. Yeah, just keep it coming, my guy. Yeah, just keep it coming. I kind of asked for it. All right. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yep. 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 Here we go. I don't know what the frick that does. That staggers you as well? I love that attack. Okay, I don't know why I go for double hits. Dude, that attack is the dumbest cheat I have ever witnessed in my life.
You fought well until now.
Ow! Ow. I wanna know what that little star thing does. That thing. What the fuck is that shit? Oh. Oh. Maybe I should just go for like a 1-2 poke. Not always like a. I was really hoping to negate that, but. What? Hello? What? Hello? I thought it went away because I when he did the thing above. I guess not. I don't know how he's always get hit by the yellow spell. What, the frickin' the boomerangs? Dude, it's impossible not to get hit by this much. I can see how frickin' big those beaches are, dude. Ha! What? Oh, you got that right? Hold on 1 second. Let me just make sure I don't lose a lot of soldier here. Oh, thanks. Okay, here we go. Oh, here we go. Here we go. I just got slapped. What are you expecting me to do here? I can't reach you here. Oh, he's got slapped. Nah, that was his friend. Get out of here, Nick. I love it. Okay, so that doesn't count because I wasn't helping him out. I wanted to get my sheet. that one doesn't count. That doesn't count. For some reason, I lost my sheet. God, get ready, Mimic. You're about to get frickin' slapped. Oh, it was a raise on him. do that? I can't do sheep. He just programmed to know. Freaking slap his sheep, my guy. Oh yeah, here we go. Oh damn, my guy got some. My man got some skills in rock guy. I knew that she was gonna go behind me. There's literally no chance of this. There's no chance we die from this. Freaking goddamn stupid ass one. What the fucking bullshit is. Oh, I'm out of freaking potions. Ah! I thought that would stagger him. I guess it does. How many potions does this beach get? Like 2? Okay, I like it. I like it a lot. So I like this game. I love this game. Love this game. No, I did that when I didn't even. Alright, we're gonna just pop this sheet right away. Fuck it. Alright, my guy, I'm going with. No, I need my sheet. Okay, go here. Don't die for him. I'm gonna go get my sheet real quick. You mind? I think so. By the time I go over there. Alright, don't worry, my guy. I'm coming in hot. I'm coming in to help you out. Just don't die. So you had to tank a little bit. How to make sure that. I saw it coming too. I never told you how much I love mages. What the frick kind of slap was that? Yeah, I was freaking slapping his mouth. Now when I sprint 3 hours in Stone Beach. We got pretty close last time. There's no way we're sprinting 3 hours. I know I say that a lot, but there's literally no sprinting 3 hours in Stone Beach. Alright, this is the one. My sheet's right here. Watch, I'm gonna go exactly when he goes. We're gonna freaking slap this fool. Here we go. Frick the super ass attack. Alright, get ready to slap him, my guy. Come on, go in. Why you gotta use that? Huh? What kind of attack was that? It's a 3, Nick. It's a 3. Don't die. Alright. Slap him in his freaking back. Fantastic. I appreciate if everyone died from that. Good minds. Dodge, dodge! Aha! Combo his ass. Get him, Mochaka. There's no way I'm not killing this guy right now. Oh, I ran out of potions. Frick you, Beach. Okay, you got that right? Okay, there's no way we're spending 3 hours in that dumb beach. Fuck that dumb beach. Stop this first. Shoot. So is there a second place? Oh no, that was just a frickin' invade. Frickin' bet my guy? Oh dude, I bet that frickin' scepter is a god for frickin' mages. I bet you that sheet's a. Where's my scepters at? I bet you this sheet's hella frickin' good. Well, I mean, I really have no idea because I don't use this sheet. It's a freaking D in Intel? Freaking phase 2 in invade. Alright, where's my freaking. Here it is. Alright. After this. Fuck that stupid mage beach. Alright. I forgot what the frick I was going for here. I respect to use the katana, which I can't even use correctly. Honestly, we should respec again, because I'm not using that katana. Well, I might for dual landing. I shouldn't. Never mind, we're good. Never mind. What did I say I was doing? That's not level ups. Doesn't matter. How many points did I spend on arcane? Like 9, 10? Yeah, I can get 30k rooms real quick for a little bit. Ah, dude, easy money. Oh shit! I never. Oh yeah, I forgot. I need to go check out what that beach got. I forgot about that beach. Thank you, sir. Okay, so here's the problem. Who's the twin rating test again? Oops. Okay. $15,000 for this sheet? Is this, is there a helmet as well? Oh, there is. Ooh. How much is that? 20, 35, 45? Can I compare? Maybe. No? Okay. I watched this in the freaking god. I can remember that sheet. It's kind of the same. I was rocking the Malekith armor. What do you think it looks like versus the Blad's armor? Blades, Mates, Mods. I don't like the helmet. Your helmet ugly? Oh, my helmet? What you mean my helmet ugly? Yeah, it kind of looks ugly. It kind of fits because Blad was a freaking wolf. If you're a Giga Chad, go. You're funny. Yo, she dead. How does it fit? Well, it's because he's a freaking wolf, you know? I'm a wolf, even though. Is this the imp? It says wolf, technically. It's. I mean, at this point, do levels really, like, matter that much? Like, I mean, obviously they do, but you know what I mean? Fuck, I'm buying that sheet. I'm trusting you. I know I'm not actually. Is it no, I'm buying it. Forget. I never go for stats. I always go for it looks. Okay, well wait. Well, do you think it looks better than Vlad's then? Not the helmet, just these three. You know me, I don't like wasting rates. I mean, I could get this sheet easily, freaking easy money, but I'm going to no. Of course. Alright, well, here we go. Oh, I look like a freaking chat already, dude. I can just see. Ooh. Helmets. I'm done with this look. Okay, not gonna lie, I'm kind of digging the armor. Okay. Yeah, that's the helmet sounded. I don't know if I like his helmet though. Looks kind of goofy. Now, what else can I see? What can I combo that sheet for? Not that. Ooh, you know what? This might. Ooh, it's a little small. It's a little small, but it kind of fits. Maybe. Wizard Town. Oh god damn it. Is that this one? Holy shit. I can see my ass from a mile away. What the fuck? Dude, I'm looking down the whole time. I can't even see straight. Jesus fucking holy bonkers, Batman. Ooh, that kind of fits with the scheme. Um, it looks kind of dorky, but also kind of cool. Maybe, possibly. That is a fat freaking no. What this? Fuck it. Fuck it. Damn, this place is fucked up.
Who are you? Oh. I must be a blacksmith. Now, let's get smithing.
Oof. About yourself.
Could you tell me what happened? Why is the round table burning? In ruins.
So about that.
Why does that girl weep for me?
The door in the back is open now.
Dire importance.
Door's back. What freaking door in the back? Frick, I didn't hear what you said. What door in the back? Oh, shit. Is this the way? Is this the one with the invader? Oh, yeah, I talked to the speech. Oh, that speech died. Wait, who was here? Oh, shit. No, I talked to the speech. I don't remember him, though. No, this is the invader that was a freaking punk to me, wasn't it? You ever did his quest? You had a quest? Whoops. No, it wasn't. Oh no, the invader was over here, I think. It's right here. Yeah, okay, that's it. Never mind. Wait, I never went in that room? When did I get that? Aw, worthless. Gonna miss one boss. Gotta replay the whole game. Aw, fuck. Is he a cool boss? Okay, boy, that's a lot of sheep, my guy. Jesus. That's a lot of freaking stones, dude. I was comparing my stones to my to the homies I was watching, dude. And goddamn, bro, you got I did so much shit in this game. I don't know why I'm going back to you. What am I going back to you for? Alright. Okay, let me peep out the bar. That's my way of telling. I feel like I should. You know what, dude? We're going more health because now the game's getting a lot harder. I feel like. Get that real quick. You already know we're securing another level. Oh, easy man. That's a lot of fucking souls, dude. Oh, but we about to get to 100k here soon. Honestly, bro, I think I might just yeet this 5 right here, not gonna lie. I think I need freaking health because I'm getting slapped by these freaking bosses now. I'm going freaking health. That's a lot of runes. You'll get one shot by Melina? For real? What health do I need not to get one shot? I'm going for it. Oh. Oh, look at that sheet. I can't get over this freaking. What's it called? fighting attacks. Back to the capital easy. It's time to meet some old friends. Oh, shit. I know I said this way, but let me get a good look real quick. Remember what I said? You beat Godric? God. Damn, that looks good. God. Shit. But you only beat a ghost of Godric? What the fuck are you talking about right now? Which way did I come from again? Okay, I came from right there. Sorry, this way. I am not going this way. I don't know. Okay, I didn't know why I assumed I'm going that way. I'm obviously going this way. It surprises me how much I forget shit. I'm gonna take. Am I supposed to go this way? I feel like I'm supposed to. No. Is this possible? This is possible, right? Oops, no. I'm not going that way. Okay. I knew that. I knew that. Wait. So what fucking way is it? Oh. It's oh. I've been here before. How did I forget that? Okay, no, it's not Tawad. It's not Tawad. Shh. I knew that. I knew that. I've been this way before. Maybe something's different now. Well, obviously. Yeah. Okay. Wait. Okay. You fight him in this room? Oh, yeah. Oh, God. Am I not fighting the ghost version anymore? Oh, son of a bitch. Is this a new one? Yes, it is. Okay, I've been here before. Okay. Oh, I think it probably freaking slaps. Oh, now we're just getting right into it? Okay. Back-to-back bosses? Alright. Let's see how fast I get slapped here. Alright, so this is the... This is where I fought, Margrot, right? Was it Margot? Morgott. No. Margit. Margit was the first one. Morgott was the second one. Morgott, yeah. So now we're gonna fight Godfrey. Oh shit. Oh, Godric. No wait, Godfrey. Fuck, I don't know. This will be a few streams. Oh, no cab right away. Okay. Oh, hey, I got you. Oh.
A long while, Morgoth.
Huh?
Long and hard didst thou fight.
Huh? Okay.
Tarnished warrior. Spurned by the grace of gold.
Okay, hear me out. Godfrey was the first Elden Lord, right?
Assured the Elden Ring.
Hey, Slasher, thank you for the freaking 100 bits, my guy. You're a freaking legend. Thank you, sir. Yes. Well, I actually got that right. Okay, sorry, I'll pay attention. Okay. So, this is Godfrey 2, second one?
I am returned.
Oh no, well this is actually him, because the other one was just a freaking ghost. You'll get his armor if you beat him. Oh, shit. Dude, he's freaking buff as shit. Okay, hold on, whoa. Am I fighting that dude as well? Is it two people in one? Oh boy.
Upon my name
You fought the ghost where you were in the capital before Morgott. This one is quicker. Okay, well fuck if I remember his attacks. Okay, so now I'm actually fighting him. Now it's okay. I got this shit. God. Huh? Is it the same attacks? Is it just quicker? No, this is easy. Watch that. Oh my. Okay. Alright. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kinda digging this. Shit. Oh, son Son of a bitch. All right. Ah. Okay. You pause one tap your ass and some moves. Ha. Okay. Oh, I'm gonna have to do all this again every time. Okay. No, that's cool. All right. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of digging this freaking this hat. It makes me feel like a badass right now. So how is Rican? Oh, now you asked me how Rican was. Can you go in? Thank you. It was pretty good. Very eventful. Okay, do I want to worry about souls, dude? I'm just not how much do I have. 2,000. That's the anymore. Shit, I'm not getting any more for that. Huh? That's a double attack. That's a triple attack. Okay, that's the one where he does the long slash. Alright! Sick hat. Thanks, bro. Okay, so, note to self. When he does that shit, it's a fucking 3 swing plop loop and it fucking hurts a lot. Alright. Okay. I feel like every boss has freaking bomb ass music, dude. Got the freaking hat. He fucking takes the whole fucking screen, dude. Okay, let me just sit back and learn. Okay, so you throw your sheet, and you land and do an attack. Okay, okay, I'm learning, I'm learning. Okay, that hit me how? Let me learn, let me learn. Let me learn, let me learn. Okay, that's a lot of moves in one. Okay, you do that little stomp thing, okay. I don't know how to dodge that. Okay. I thought that was a good dodge. It was not a good dodge. Somehow I dodged that. Okay. Okay, why did I go for the attack right there? Okay. Did I miss? Okay. Watch this. I'm gonna bait him out. Watch this. Watch this. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, I'm not gonna bait him out. Here we go. Bait him out. Oh. Aha! Almost like it. Oh! Whew! That's the long one. That's the long one. That's the... No, it's not. Yes, it is. Jesus. Son of a bitch. Oh my god, this guy's low health. Okay, honestly, bro, his attacks shouldn't even be that hard to freaking dodge. They're pretty slow. Yeah, this guy's taking long. I feel like his attack should... Yeah, dude, my freaking damage is stupid. I freaking thought my katana was leveled up. Should we try the double on this one? I still don't even know if the double is even worth doing. Oh, it's kind of like badass. I'm not gonna lie. Watch this. Ah. Alright. Okay, so I'm up. Okay. I feel like his attacks are quicker, but I'm still going too freaking early. Do it with fists. You know what? Actually, watch this. Watch how much damage I'm about to do this freaking punk. Can you even charge attack with this shit? That's my. I watch this. I feel like a badass not freaking holding shit, dude. Run up his dumb beach. Watch this. It's like 5 damage, dude. Oh, it doesn't even use freaking what's it called? Much of like those speedrunners. What's up, beach? 2 damage. If you like this to crack, bro. If I do like that, I need a freaking. I need a, what's it called? Freaking not freaking award. Oh, you know what's funny? When I was playing with the homie and he was killing the fire giant, he had the blood katana, and he was gonna show me some sheet, but I was like, "Yeah, did I nerf that sheet?" And he was like, "Wait, what?" Funny. I don't think there's any opportunity I'm going. That's new. Yeah, bro, he was hella excited. He saw the katana and he was like, "Oh, check this sheet out." I'm like, "All right, bet." And then he went to the katana. I was like, "Yep, they nerfed that." And he was like, "Wait, what?" Can you stop dying? I want to hear the music more. Oh, freaking sorry. Ah, here we go. Tell me how the frick to dodge that? I pressed the button? Okay, I need to stop being so cocky. I mean, how about this? How about like 1 attack per hit? Because he does 4 different combos and I can't remember each one. So we're not. Let's just go for frickin' 1 swing. Frick it. Let's make this a 20-minute run each time. Oh my god, this looks fucking badass, dude. I mean, he seems fun to be fair. I just need to like maybe not suck. So, you know, the whole thing is I need to just chill. How are you supposed to dodge that, bro? Like how? What? Such a slow attack. How the frick did I not dodge that? Yeah, that's new. Wanna use this right now? Fuck it. I need to know when you're gonna do your little pokey thing. I kinda wanna bait out your attacks just so I can do a little bit. You know what's coming too. This is not something about it. I'm running. Okay. Oh, dude. Oh man, I see what you're talking about. Damn it, too freaking early. God, you're some freaking big ass freaking swings, my guy. But that wasn't a double attack? I guess it wasn't. Oh, read that like a book. Oh, didn't read that down. Oh, read that sheet. What's up? Oh, too freaking early. Yeah, too freaking early. Son of a bitch. I need to time one, buddy. We're learning. I gotta get better at timing. I'm freaking doing my sheet too early. Maybe I need to remember that like every one, like a majority of his attacks, you have to freaking dodge late and not early. Because I'm freaking dodging early in all his sheets. I'm gonna get freaking slapped like a freaking ragdoll on this beach. did it again. Freaking, I didn't delay it and I got hit. I feel like I know it, but I don't, you know? And now I just need to get better. And now fucking stop is full. I'm feeling a lot of confidence. Okay, I can easily get 2 hits at the start. I thought that was good. What? I guess it wasn't. Oh wait, this is new. Oh, it's only one time. Did you see him delay the last? That's some fucking bullshit, my guy. Oh, I forgot. That's the combo. Now he's gonna. Yep. There we go. Guess I read it. Okay, that's easily 2 hits. Okay. Oh, okay, that's the one that I died and didn't get a chance to see. Really. I can. Jesus fucking Christ. Okay, no, this guy's fun. I just need to get good. Oh, that's the attack. No shot, this guy does not have. I have 5 flasks already. No shot, this guy doesn't have 3 phases. I don't know what to expect for that. Okay, note to self, when he does that, frick if I know what to do still. No. We have to have a talk, my guy. How the frick did you? How do you expect him? Okay, how did you dodge that? I mean, obviously, you probably dodge, like, you know, roll when he does. How the fuck do you have the reaction time for that? Okay. If you can just refrain from doing any other attack than just swinging, that'd be great. No fire, none of that. Let's just nothing but swing. Okay, cool. Thanks. Wasn't even near me? No, you know what? I expected. I accepted English. Okay, no, that's cool. I agree. Frick. I agree. I mean, I agree. No. Did you see the last round we had? That was pretty good. I got him down like 3/4. We're getting better. We're getting better. We're getting better. Here we go. Grab this for good luck. All right. Fucking shit, bagel. Like that sheet. Oh my god, this guy's fun. Woo! That was just me not having the time. Jesus fuck. Oh, that's it. I was still in range of that? Oh, now I'm dying. Okay. I feel like that was good. I didn't know I was gonna be the. I was in range of that because it looked like a. Haha. Okay. Alright. Alright, here we go, 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 here we go. If you're a chat, you go for 3. The one time I go for attack. Okay, now we're getting better. We're getting better. We're learning. Definitely think this guy's gonna take me a lot longer than an hour and a half. Oh, learning? Why the frick am I tired? Oh wait, it's Monday. I forgot. Alright, we're learning. Grab us for good luck. God, dude, that little freaking delay at the end is freaking killing me. Yeah, I'm freaking. I don't know why I'm torturing myself like this. I don't know why I'm torturing myself. I want to be so aggressive, but then again, I just fucking can't because I keep getting fucking slapped. Here we go, 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 here we go. You gonna fucking do it or what? Alright. Guess we're not starting off good. Damn it, I gotta do it that more. Alright, haha. It's crazy how I can die on them. Fuck. Alright, here we go, 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 here we go. I want to see what the translation is saying on that. It's probably freaking. I don't even know what it is. That's what I'm talking. Oh, frick, it's more. Oh, it's more. Haha. Haha. Okay. Whew. That was pure luck. Is that the. It's definitely not what I'm thinking about. Okay. Well, that was a freaking flask. Bad timing. Ha ha ha. Nobody fought. What do you mean nobody fought? I freaking got slapped. What the fuck kind of crack you smoking? I don't know your definition of nobody fought. Here we go. Damn, that was freaking risky. That was freaking good though. Why then? So freaking, that was so bad. That was really bad. That ow. That was bad. Wow, dude, what the fuck am I yawning for? Shut up. Okay. Just tell myself shut up. Nice job. Alright. Welcome back, Bagel. Did you win yet? Yeah, we killed him. This is just you're watching the water right now. This is the run I did. I missed that shit. Why didn't you go for? See, when you don't finish your combos, it's like what? Oh God, that's it. Yeah. Oh, that's the thing. I'm getting hit by. Ha. Oh. I'm gonna keep comboing. Alright, secretly, this is not the VOD. You're actually watching live. Fuck it. Let's just get the fuels. Can I add some sheets to my favorites? So I don't have to keep scrolling down. This is definitely not that far down. What the frick am I going? Where's my sheet at? It's freaking right here, Dumbo. Can I like make this into a freaking favorite? Alright, we're trying it out. We're trying it out. Alright, Bagel. You ain't never seen such a good run right here. This actually might be worth it because I can probably get like 2 freaking slaps in. It's okay. This actually might be a strat. This actually might be a strat. Here we go. 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 Delay your sheet last second. Sometimes you go quick, sometimes you freaking don't. That is death. I don't know why I went for an attack. Oh, that's a double attack. I knew that. Okay, peep out his health though. And you know, that was around like what? A lot quicker. Is there any more Ashes of War that are good with the katanas that are worth? Like not like OP, but actually just like overall freaking solid. Most of my attacks are just freaking rolling one. Over there. And that does what, 7 damage? Pressing buttons, pressing buttons, pressing buttons. See, now that one was quick, but all the other ones are freaking slow as molasses. God, I actually dodged it. You don't even get much downtime even doing damage either. It's so freaking sucky. And then you delay your attacks like a little beach. I feel like a badass with this hat, dude. I don't know why a freaking wizard hat makes me feel like a god, but it does. You're gonna go for it back. Ah, it's not. Damn it, I freaking pressed the button. Yeah, at least I saw it cut. I'm dead. Freaking make up a goddamn amount. Frick attack me then? What the fuck did that hit me? Wait, no. How the frickin' shoot did that hit me, my guy? Fuck, that's going wrong with this. Dude, I know you have a second phase, my guy, and I know it's gonna be frickin' stupid. Sir? Sir? I'm pressing the button. What if he has Rainbow in 2 phases? No, freaking shot bosses have 1 too. Actually, have I encountered one that has 1 too? I don't think I have, right? Maybe 1. Who though? I don't know. Well, technically, that one book beach had it, right? Would you consider that 3 phases? Actually, you probably don't consider that anymore. Damn it, why can't you just get to it? Try somewhere. Wow. Someone's a little angry. Sorry, go follow up. What? Dude, are you just gonna stomp the whole game? I guess so. This man frickin' stomp. Okay. Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. Grab us for good luck, grab us for good luck. Here we go. You fucking punk. Why is it every time I go for an attack, you stomp my sheep, but whenever you go for an attack, I can't stomp your sheep. Hey, what's up, Chase? I need your help building a log cabin in Georgia. My bad. Hey, what's up, dude? What's up, Liz? Thanks for fucking following, my guy. While we're building a log cabin in fucking Georgia. What's up, dude? Chase, haha, you got some fun ahead of you, my guy. If you thought frickin' Fire Giant was hard, haha, whoo! Good luck, my guy. Actually, this guy would probably be easy. God, my frickin' reaction time. Jesus Christ. Dude, I need to frickin' punish more. That's a bad thing. That's a bad thing. Oh, what? Come on. Not a bad thing. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Go for an attack. Yeah! Nice. Here we go, here we go. Fighting this guy for what, 2 minutes? And I've done how much damage to him? Fucking jack sheep. Oh, we playing this. Oh, we playing the stomp game, dude? Have we found the build log cabin, by the way? It's Liz/River. Oh, what's up, dude? So, while we're building a log cabin. We're quitting our jobs, moving to Georgia. Okay. Okay. What's the plan after that? Okay. Why did you change now? Ah. 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 That's very bad. Oh, I thought that was a different attack. Okay. Give me one. You want to explain how the poop that hit me? So I can down build log cabin? I'm in log cabin, sure. Current job is making building a cabin. Or we transfer as the Clayton Homes in to Offera. Huh. That's interesting idea. Okay. What's the plan for that? Okay. I'm intrigued. Fucking do something? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize. That's not the move. Okay. somewhere in there. You know what? Second phase, definitely the guy behind him is gonna be doing some shit to me. He's slapping me in the freaking mouth. 100%. Yeah, what if we just play the game Beanwell Beach? God, no strict music's badass. Ah! Ah! Wait, he's gonna come in again? Yeah! 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 Oh my god, I can't believe I dodged all that. And look at his health. I've literally done jack shit. Shut that. That's gonna hurt. That's gonna leave more. That's gonna leave. That's oh, okay. Oh. 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 Whoa, now we're... Ah! Now, hold on, now you're... Okay, wait, now your stomp... Now your stomps do nothing but fucking... Is this part of your second phase? Can you chill with this? Is this all? I didn't know we were playing Stomping Simulator. Dude, look at how much health this man has left. I fought that beast for, I want to say I saw it like 4 minutes. What the fuck? Hi, hero. Yeah. Alright. Aha. That was messy. Okay. I'm really not digging Stomping Simulator. I'm good. I was just okay. Ow. Also, Chase, if he's actually wait, I'm just gonna ask first. You still watching, Chase? Oh my god, that was risky. Alright, so definitely after when he, I think when he does the big ass fucking stomp, that initiates every stomp after that to be a fucking powerhouse stomp. I also forgot to do. Fuck. Okay, we're learning. Learning. Oh, it's risky. I don't think I should have moved there. Oh, it was kind of not. That was not really that good. Is that the move? Why do I keep thinking that's the move? Which fucking move is it? Oh, you can do that shit again? That's the move. That's the move. I was too late. Okay, now I think this is when he initiates every single thing to be a freaking powerhouse. Yep. So pretty much now I'm just getting punished for getting stomped on. I am not dodging that. I do not have good enough thing for that. God, that hits me across the whole freaking map now, dude. Jesus fuck. Okay, so I ain't got no downtime when he starts doing that. And I can guarantee you once I get him down even more, dude, he's gonna freaking do some other freaking crap. Haha. That's some fun. This is gonna be fun. This is gonna be fun. Damn it, I thought that was the thing. Damn it. God, 100%. Fuck dad. How the fuck did I dodge that? Oh, look at that sweet old blade, boy. God, it's a lot more than that. Oh, I forgot. That's the whole map. Haha. Alright, now he's introduced my stomp. Damn it, too freaking early. Damn it, too early. I have no... Okay, so... I don't think I can freaking heal on that sheet. Bago, I'm getting better. Bago, I'm getting better. I'm getting better. I'm learning a lot. But the only thing I'm scared about is that... that's just one of his things he adds. What the frick is half health gonna be? And what is freaking 3/4 gonna be? That's the freaking problem here. And how the fuck do I pop a heal off when he does that and across the whole fucking map? Ah. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. Okay, he's not going for it. Not already. Wow. Where do I go for attack? I know it's bad. Do I still do it? Yeah. Why not? Sorry. Alright, we're getting there, Bagel. We're getting there. I'm freaking learning. I'm learning. I need to figure out how the fuck, like, the timing to pop heals off on his, I don't know if you call it second phase when he does that. I assume so. But what's classified as a second phase? I feel like a cutscene is classified as a second phase. So I guess the siren classifies as a second phase. My button seemed I didn't get the shit off that fucking okay, that was so fucking start. Damn, I thought the time, right? Oh, that's the thing. How many times do I forget that attack? A lot. Damn, look how much I got him down. See, being aggressive is fun. I just gotta be good at the game. This is a run? Dude, there's no chance we're close to beating this guy. We gotta at least see what the fuck happens on half his soul. I know as soon as I go for an attack, it's slapped. Why didn't you decide to go for it? Okay, that's okay. How do I forget that every time? Oh, you gonna like maybe get up? Maybe I appreciate that. Thank you very much. What the fuck? I still timed it wrong. I'm using this shit right now. God, right is that? Damn it! Huh? Going for him, going for him, going for it. God, no, it was not worth. That's attack, Nick. Okay, now we're gonna have to deal with the frickin'. Now we're gonna have to deal with the guy in the back. What the frick his name is? Yo, I'm gonna have to fight his ass now, huh? Am I fighting both? Oh, shit. Ha. Oh, shit. Alright. Okay, wait. Hold on. Did I skip something? Wait, did I skip some shit? Wait, what? Okay. I see. Oh, okay. I thought I skipped something. Okay, so what? Now you got new freaking powers I have to worry about?
I've given thee
Holy
courtesy
fucking Jesus.
enough.
Holy fucking Jesus.
Now I fight as Horalu,
Oh, huh?
warrior.
Okay. Okay, so now you don't have a weapon? You know what that means? All new attacks. Oh god. Oh, what is that? What does that do? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, uh-huh. Okay, new attacks. I love it. Oh, is that she? Oh, okay. I don't know what to expect for half of these fucking attacks. I'm just gonna wait it out here. That's a lot of attacks, my guy. Okay, when he does his long sheet, I'm learning. That's the fire one? That's the fire one? How do you dodge that? I think I dodged it. Ow! I'm healing. That's wait. Run! Run! Oh, that's a different attack. How many times are you doing that? No. Okay. That's gonna hurt. Oh, I don't know when to attack you. That's. Ow! It's not smart to go for him. How the fuck did I dodge that shit? Dude, I don't know when to attack you, my guy. Right now. What? Hold on. Wait. Okay, one. Yeah! Oh, I can just run away from it? I knew that. I knew that. Dude, this is not what I was expecting. This is not what I was expecting at all. This is not what I was expecting. I don't know. I don't want to stay close to you because you're scaring me a little bit. Not gonna lie, my guy. Oh, okay. You're not gonna do your thing. Okay. Wow, that was sick. That I don't even care that I died. That was freaking sick. I almost killed that beast first try. I'm not even mad. I'm not even mad, dude. That was freaking sick. Holy shit. That's longer than I thought. Yeah, I know. Freaking, I lasted 3 minutes longer than you thought. Freaking almost. Fix the green screen. Whenever you see that, I always never see it. CSD slasher? Dang. That was, dude, that was not what I was expecting at all. That was sick. I pressed space there, but... You know you're gonna... Why would you go for that? Dude, I want to do that again. Okay, so now I gotta remember. Okay. When he does his long build up, that's when he's gonna do his fast sheet, which means run the f away from him. When he does his frickin' flame on the ground explosion bullshit, if you frickin' run far enough, you're getting away from it. And then when he does his frickin' ground pound bullshit, he usually does it in increments of frickin' 3. You know what, dude? Look, I'm already learning a lot of shit. I fucking got this. Here we go. I know, as soon as I go for an attack, that's true. Okay, now I'm kind of feeling like we can freaking do this sheet in an hour. If we got that close, but I know I'm never gonna get that close again. But that was freaking sick, dude. I wasn't expecting him to yeet me in there. That was freaking awesome. That was really, really, really bad on my hands. Holy shit. I think that's the third time I've died by that attack, and the same amount of health every time as well. I always dodge too freaking early. That sheet? Just gonna put that. It's not gonna work. It's not the attack I'm thinking about. Okay. Okay, I'm getting a little bit, I think I'm losing my oomph a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. Alright. Oops. Oopsies. I'm losing my oomph. I had a good oomph, but now I'm losing it. Dude, I want to fight that second version so fucking bad. It's so cool. Is he going for it? He's going for it? He's not going for it. Oh. Every time I go for it. Dude, that's the 4th time I've died by that combo. Am I ever gonna learn? Probably not. What the fuck? What the fuck? Like that sheet. Good start. Not time by that attack again. I refuse. That's the attack, my guy. That is the attack. He goes for this good old freaking 1-2 swing. I didn't need to. Alright, Nick, you really gotta freaking pop off here. That is the wrong attack. Well, why would I go for him? That was the worst idea I could have made. Why would I? Why? It's fun. It's fun. Alright, it's fun. Hey, Big Wolf. Is there a thing for the mix to make you do more physical damage? Must be, right? Damn, we're not to son of a bitch. Son of a freaking bitch. Oh, son of a bitch. Fuck. Alright. Bagel, is there a mix? I don't know, forget if you heard me. Is there a mix for physical damage? No idea. Why not? You know he's doing that. Why do I go for an attack with you, dude? Freaking trigger myself. Oh, this was him. Oh. Fuck, I want to get to that second phase, dude. I'm feeling it, Mr. Krabs. I thought we'd at least get frickin' to one by now. Fuck. Oh, so much. Yeah, I pressed, what the frick is, I pressed space. I pressed space! Oh, that hit me? So did that. Fuck, I want to get to the second phase. I'm being, shit. I don't know. Fuck. Oh. Go for it. I see. Why are you lying? Alright, Biggle, here we go. Watch this. Ah, that was to scare him a little bit. I'm gonna grab this for good luck. Watch this shit. Alright, maybe not a good start. I deserve to die after that. That was fucking terrible. I think you should be a little quicker here. You're not really thinking for my minutes here. Okay. Next run. Next run. Wait, I never asked. How was your weekend, Miguel? What did you do? Wait, did I ask? No, I think I asked. Well then, all right. All right. Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. That was kind of That's a good start. I wish that was my other attack. This is cool. That was super delayed. Damn it, stupid delayed freaking bullshit. Fuck that, dodge that attack. God, didn't he hit me with that combo? I'm walking into the attack. I'm just screwing myself. God, I just dodged. I don't know why I'm not being real aggressive right now. Got the bleed as well. If that would have initiated the second, I would have lived. But fuck, I was probably like one hit off. Fuck. I was better though. Dude, I can't believe I killed that beach today, dude. I'm like surprised. I'm thinking frickin' I'll kill this guy at the very end of next turn. That's what my frickin' prediction is. It's not a really good start. So why is it sometimes you want to do that, and sometimes you don't? That was good ass dodges. Oh, I thought they were gonna go for the double. That's why I didn't go for the double. Well, why ain't that some bullshit? Now we're playing the game. What? I don't know when you're going for your stupid other freaking swing. Hit me? Dude, I feel like I've been fighting you for so long. Such a long fight, I feel like. Jesus fucking goddamn. Jesus, dude. Bro, that is such free damage right there. What the fuck am I taking advantage of that shit? Okay, that was like a learning curve right there. Dude, that's freaking easy money damage right there. If I get full stam, dude, and just freaking lay on his freaking sheet, I can definitely get that freaking bleed and smack the fuck out of him. I could probably skip that whole stomping sheet. Ooh, you know what, dude? Watch this, big. Watch this. Here we go. I always say that, but I keep getting one shot. That? I swear to God, I'm freaking pressing the button. That's a lot of damage. That's a lot of damage. Every time I go for a freaking heal, my man, you always give me some freaking bullshit. Am I ever gonna learn to like not do that every single motherfucking fight? At this point, I don't freaking know. Here we go. That's an entertaining dodge. Freaking playing Ring Around the Rosie up in the speech. You stop. Delayed attacks. Delayed attacks. Delayed attacks. I think it's been an hour since I mentioned that it was an hour and a half ago, obviously, because they had 7:30. I feel like we freaking got a lot of progress. Jesus, done. English. Hello. Ow. That kinda hurts. Just a little bit. So that's the one we just pick and choose when you want to fucking do that? I guess so. Alright, here we go. Oh, I am qualified in my boat. Well, that sucks, dude. Jesus, what the frick did I dodge that? See, I thought that was the other one, that's why I moved. Well, this is not the run. We missed a very good opportunity for some motherfucking damage. Now we're stuffing everything else. Oh, alright, man. Fuck, as soon as I missed that freaking thing, I knew it was the freaking one. Son of a bitch. Alright, here we go. Dude, I want to freaking abuse that downtime so freaking bad. All I need to do is dodge that one attack, dude. I can freaking slap this man. Fuck. All I need, Bagel, freaking dodge that one attack, my guy. Bagel. Fucking like that shit. Now he's definitely gonna do it. Completely avoided that sheet. Easy money. Alright, here we go, Nick. Here we go. Did I even use the potion? That hurts. I know it hurts. Oh, I can't believe it. I forgot the freaking timing. Son of a bitch. Dude, I forgot the timing of it. Son of a mother. Ooh. Dude, that was so good. See how freaking cocky I was getting? Oh, freaking, you see how like confidence, dude? I was just slapping the fuck out of him, all that confidence, and then the freaking mega F. Start already, good start, I like it. Not a good start. Actually learned. Not. Ow! That's a double, I forgot. How did I forget? I don't know. How many times I fought this guy? Like 50. I think I learned by now, right? Ah, no. Also, I just want to appreciate the fact that PC loading time is a lot faster than PS5, even if it's on M.2. Just want to point that out. Right. Well, I should say compared to my rig. Never mind. I guess I shouldn't compare it because you know the price difference. I lied. Definition of fucking terrible. How did I not get hit by that first attack? Fuck, I should have been faster. Oh, I was hoping I'd be able to freaking time that so good. Damn it. I was really praying. It's freaking praying. I was praying that that shit would be good. So I just noticed, what flask is this? Why do I have that in there? That's a lot of damage. I'm going for it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Slap all my healing. 50 seconds. That shit was about time to freaking. Frick your phase, my guy. You're freaking out of here. Never mind. Never mind. It's probably one hit off. I have to land every single freaking hit to get that freaking bleed for that. Never mind. Okay, hold on 1 second. Why the frick do I have this beach in here or not? Is there a thing on this? What the frick is this dumb beach in my sheet? What is this? Why do I have this? Why are you here? What the frick was in your replacement? What the frick are you in my goddamn sheet for? What the frick was right here? Why are you here? What is happening? Get the frick out of here. What was right there? What the frick is happening? Huh. Okay. When did I put that faucet? I don't remember putting that faucet there. Have I always had that shit there? Ooh, okay. He goes for that little swing uppercut. I know he does. But do I do anything about it? No. Why not? Oops. Do freaking something, my guy. Thank you. How did I dodge that? Oh, okay, no, just. Did that one shot me before? I feel like it only did like 1/4 my, like 2/4, maybe 3/4. Ow. Okay. I just forgot what I was gonna say now. What was I talking about? Fuck if I know. Okay. Fuck. What the fuck was I talking about? Get this for good luck, get this for good luck. That's a lot of damage already. Yeah, that sheep does not walk into the tank. Oh, I was hoping that was freaking right out of the frame. I was hoping that was out of the frame. It was not. Let's get warmed up, get warmed up. I always seem to dodge to the freaking right, and that's whenever he does this freaking uppercut slam. Why the fuck am I not starting to go to the left instead? 100% necessary. I'm not used to going left. That's the only problem. My default reaction is to go right. Fucking. Honestly, that was worth the attack. I'm gonna fucking lie. It was not worth the attack. It was not worth the attack. Oh, shit. Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. Fucking shit, it's right there. No timing for that. Ah. Damn it. I'm so delayed. Look, I've dodged so many attacks. I'm so, like, not even far. Jesus. Damn it. I was thinking about popping off a double heal right there, but I was like, that's probably too much. And what do you freaking know? Well, I mean, I guess I didn't do it, so I can't really say that. Let's just say it was too much. Fuck. Okay, here we go, 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 here we go. Oh, you freaking went that way. That sucks. No fucking way. Yeah, I just skipped his whole sheet too. No motherfucking way. Son of a frickin' flap smackle pop. Alright. Oh, that's a freaking triple? Quad since freaking when? I guess 5 seconds ago.
You've got mail.
Not today, Mochaka. I got like a lot of modes actually. Bagel, we're getting close, my guy. It's just a matter of freaking time. Now that you joined back, watch this. Not this one. No way. Right. That was so out of range. What? The one time I expected you to go for another hit, you freaking don't? What the fucking hell, my guy? Fuck Christ. That was bad, but it was good. Oh my god, you see it's not. And I just initiated this YouTube. Fuck. No, not big. Watch this fucking shit, okay? Alright. Watch this. We're gonna destroy this, and this. Alright, watch this. That's all your Nest cheat code. Hoping I don't know if you know that or not, but watch this. As soon as I go for an attack, he decides to hit my sheet. Let's see if that's the move. Ah, I thought he was far enough. I was sadly mistaken. out of here. You're freaking out of here. Damn it. I didn't get it. Freaking change so I can heal. Thank God. Alright. Ah! That timing is so fucking weird, dude. Okay. Note to self, I think I got it though. I noticed he freaking yeets his head up right like 1 second before he does it. All we gotta do is just do that sheet. Alright, here we go. Do the cheat code again? Alright. Dude, I'm freaking so close. I'm so close, my guy. Better go watch this sheet. This is the freaking one. You know what? How good I'm feeling about this, dude? Well, I watched this. I've watched this. You've never seen like this before. That's how good I feel. That's how fucking here we go, my God. That's how good I'm feeling with this sheet. Let's go. I'm feeling freaking. Here we go. Dude, our freaking stamina's cracked. Wait, why didn't I go for damage right there? The fuck is... What the fuck was that? That was dumb. That was dumb. Why did I do that? That was freaking stupid. Why did I do that? That was dumb. That was dumb. That was dumb. Okay, I'm going for it again. Alright. This will be, what time is it? 4 minutes? Okay, here's, watch this. So I'm not feeling this run, right? But next run. I'm feeling like next one is gonna be the one. I don't know why, but watch. I'm feeling it. Like I'm about to get slapped here, and I'm gonna actually try not to die, but I'm gonna die because I suck. But watch this. Okay, so that wasn't even intentional. I'm freaking dumb. All right, this is the one. This is the one. Dude, I did not notice how freaking overpowered a Rune Arc is, dude. Holy molasses. Dude, if I got runes, I should just buy a bunch of those, because then I can just use them on freaking... Why don't I use those? What's freaking wrong with me, dude? I've spent how many fucking hours, dude? 73 hours, and I haven't even fucking used for like 3. What the... Boo. Oh, I didn't do my cheat code. Oops. I thought he was gonna go for it. Wow, that was bad. It's kind of fun that too. Oh, and that was his freaking thing. Son of a bitch, man. If I would have dodged that, I would have freaking done that shit. Pook. Alright. This is the, wait, no, cheat code? Cheat code. Oh wait, I forgot part of the cheat code. Is that one? Okay. Cheat code activated. Watch this. Here we go. This is the freaking run. This is the last run of the night. Watch this freaking sheet. I'm about to pop off. No talking. Here we go. Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. Fucking focus mode. I'm using one of these bullshits and we're fucking slapping this man. Here we go. Here we go, 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 here we go. Here we go. Alright. This is the last one. This is the last one. Okay, you know what? You know what happened, dude? Look, I forgot the cheat code. My God, look, I forgot 3 pots, dude. Look, or 2 pots. Okay, here's the cheat code. You do this one first, right? Then you go for this one over here. Alright. Then you go out here, and then you go to this one right here. Boom. Okay. Then you do this one. Alright. Then you're gonna go this one right here. Okay. And then watch this. Watch this. Skip that one. That one's dumb, right? And then you go for this one. Then you fake it out, then you go for this one. Alright, she could activate. Watch this. Alright, now the cheat code is actually activated. This is the actual run I was talking about. And now the part of it is you have to use this inside of here. It doesn't activate. Alright, cheat code's fully activated. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. What? No way he just did the 1-2 combo on my sheet as a... There's no way this man just did the 1-2 combo as I was gonna heal. I was gonna run away and heal, but he did the 1-2 combo, then I got clapped, then they freaking killed me, and then they freaking got... Ah! So I was gonna attack his back, but I feel like I didn't have enough, that would have been cheating a little bit, because the cheat code only activate. I feel like it was too cocky if I went for the back, so I wanted to wait. Dude, that was that's good. There's no way I had 9 potions. Is there really? Son of a bitch. Oh my god. The Cubs catching my guy is nowhere near accurate at all. I know, it's impossible to make it accurate. It's literally impossible. I talk too fast for it to work. Like, if I keep talking fast like this, it won't even activate at all because I'm talking so fast and I won't even know what the fuck I'm talking about. But if I talk